When Lewis Hamilton spotted a familiar face in the Monaco Grand Prix paddock, he thought he was seeing a ghost. Zara Patel, his best friend from Stevenage who vanished from his life 20 years ago, stood just meters away, wearing a press badge and looking as shocked as he felt. Their reunion should have been private. A simple hello between old friends who once carved their names in an oak tree and promised to stay connected forever. But when a photographer captured Lewis's emotional reaction and Zara's nervous smile, the image exploded across social media. Within hours, millions of fans speculated about their relationship. The media dug into their past, uncovering childhood photos and small-town newspaper clippings. What started as an innocent reunion became the most talked-about story in sports. But Lewis had no idea that Zara's nervousness wasn't about the cameras or the attention. She was hiding something that would change his life forever, a secret she'd kept for 14 years. Walking closer to them both with every passing moment, as the world watched their every move, Lewis was about to discover that some childhood friendships leave behind more than just memories. The Monaco Grand Prix paddock buzzed with its usual energy on this warm May morning in 2024. Lewis Hamilton walked through the familiar chaos of mechanics, journalists, and team members preparing for one of Formula One's most famous races. The smell of rubber and fuel mixed with the salty Mediterranean air as he made his way toward the Mercedes garage, T39. Lewis had experienced this scene hundreds of times. The Monaco paddock was like a second home to him. He knew every corner, every face, every routine. Nothing here surprised him anymore. Or so he thought. As he passed the media center, something made him stop. A woman with dark curly hair stood near a group of journalists, holding a recording device and notepad. She wore a simple blue dress and had a press badge hanging around her neck. From behind, she looked familiar in a way that made his heart skip. The woman turned slightly, and Lewis felt the world stop spinning. Zara, he whispered to himself. It was impossible. But those eyes, that smile, the way she tucked her hair behind her left ear when she was nervous, it was definitely her. Zara Patel, his childhood friend from Stevenage who had disappeared from his life 20 years ago. Lewis stood frozen as memories flooded back. He remembered a skinny 8-year-old girl with pigtails cheering for him at the Rye House kart circuit. He remembered summer afternoons exploring Stevenage together, sharing dreams and secrets. He remembered the day she left, when they were both just kids who thought they'd stay friends forever. Zara looked up and saw him staring. Her eyes widened with recognition and something else, surprise mixed with nervousness. She said something to the other journalists and walked toward him, her press badge swaying with each step. "Hello, Lewis," she said softly when she reached him. Her voice was different now, more confident, more grown-up, but it was still the same gentle tone he remembered. Lewis opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He felt like that 10-year-old boy again, tongue-tied around his best friend. "Zara," he finally managed. "I can't believe it's you." She smiled, but he could see her hands shaking slightly. "I can't believe it either. You look exactly like you do on TV." They both laughed awkwardly. Around them, the paddock continued its busy routine, but Lewis felt like they were the only two people in the world. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I'm a sports journalist." "Now," she said, showing him her press badge. "I cover Formula One for an online magazine. I've been following your career for years." Lewis felt his chest tighten. She'd been watching his races, reading about his victories and defeats, while he'd spent years wondering what happened to her. He'd searched for her on social media countless times, but never found any trace. "I looked for you," he said quietly. "After you moved to Birmingham, I tried to find you." Zara's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away quickly. "I know. I stayed away from social media. It was easier that way." "Easier for what?" Before she could answer, a Mercedes team member approached them. "Lewis, we need you in the garage for the briefing in 5 minutes." "Right, of course," Lewis said, not taking his eyes off Zara. "Listen, can we talk later? After practice? I have so many questions." Zara hesitated. She looked down at her notepad, then back at him. "I'm actually supposed to interview you today. For my magazine. Would that be okay?" Lewis nodded eagerly. "Yes, absolutely. We can do it after the session." As he walked toward the Mercedes garage, Lewis couldn't concentrate on anything his engineer was saying. His mind kept drifting back to Zara. She looked older, obviously, but there was something else different about her. A sadness in her eyes that wasn't there when they were kids. And the way she'd hesitated when he mentioned talking later, like she was carrying a heavy secret. During the practice session, Lewis found himself making small mistakes. He missed his breaking point at the hairpin turn and had to correct his lines several times. His race engineer's voice crackled through the radio. "Everything okay, Lewis? You seem distracted." "I'm fine," Lewis replied, but he wasn't fine. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel, and his heart was racing faster than the car. From the media center, Zara watched every lap on the monitors. She gripped her pen so tightly her knuckles turned white. When Lewis made an error at turn 1, she gasped audibly, causing other journalists to look at her strangely. "Are you okay?" asked the journalist sitting next to her. "Yes, just hoping for a good story," Zara replied, but her voice was shaky. After the session ended, Lewis found Zara waiting outside the Mercedes garage. She was fidgeting with something in her pocket, a small object she kept rolling between her fingers. "Ready for that interview?" she asked, trying to sound professional. Lewis nodded, but as they walked toward the media center, he couldn't help but notice how nervous she seemed. Whatever had happened to her in the past 20 years, whatever had kept her away from social media and made her eyes so sad, he was determined to find out. "Zara," he said as they reached the interview room, "I'm really glad you're here. I've missed you." She looked up at him with those same gentle eyes he remembered from childhood. "I've missed you too, Lewis. More than you know." As they sat down for the interview, neither of them realized that a photographer had captured their reunion in the paddock. The image, Lewis's shocked expression and Zara's nervous smile, was already being uploaded to social media, where it would soon change both their lives forever. But right now, in this quiet interview room, Lewis's mind wasn't on social media or racing. It was traveling back in time to a small town in Hertfordshire, where two children once believed friendship could last forever. Stevenage, summer 1995. 10-year-old Lewis Hamilton gripped the steering wheel of his go-kart, his knuckles white with concentration. The engine roared as he took the corner at Rye House Kart Circuit, dust flying behind his wheels. From the sidelines, 8-year-old Zara Patel jumped up and down, her pigtails bouncing. "Go, Lewis. You're winning," she shouted, her voice carrying over the noise of the engines. Lewis crossed the finish line first, pumping his fist in the air. The first person he looked for was Zara. She was already running toward him, her face glowing with excitement. "You did it. You actually did it," she said, hugging him tightly. Lewis's father, Anthony, walked over, smiling proudly. "Well done, son. That was your best time yet." Anthony worked 3 jobs to pay for Lewis's karting. He was a decorator, a computer programmer, and sometimes worked nights at a local factory. But he never missed a race. He believed in Lewis's dream even when money was tight. "Can Zara come celebrate with us?" Lewis asked. "Of course," Anthony said. "But let's ask her parents." First, Zara's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Patel, ran a small corner shop in Stevenage. They worked long hours, but always made time for their daughter. Mrs. Patel packed sandwiches for Lewis and Zara's adventures, while Mr. Patel taught them both how to fix bicycle chains and change light bulbs. "Just be home before dark," Mrs. Patel told Zara, kissing her forehead. Lewis and Zara spent that summer exploring every corner of Stevenage. They rode their bikes through the town center, past the shopping precinct and the old clock tower. They played football in Fairlands Valley Park, where Lewis always insisted on being the goalkeeper because he said it was good practice for quick reflexes. Their favorite spot was an old oak tree near the railway bridge. They'd carved a small heart into the bark with their initials inside. LH plus ZP equals friends forever. Under the tree, they shared their biggest dreams. "I'm going to be a Formula One driver," Lewis said one afternoon, lying on the grass and looking up at the clouds. "I'll travel the world and win championships." "I want to travel too," Zara said. "I want to see every country and write stories about them. Maybe I'll write about your races." Lewis sat up, excited. "Really? You do that?" "Of course. We're best friends. Best friends stick together." They made a pact that day. No matter where life took them, they would always be friends. Lewis gave Zara his most precious possession, a small silver racing car keychain that his father had given him after his first karting win. "Keep this," he said. "When I become a famous driver, you can give it back to me." and I'll know you kept your promise. Zara held the keychain carefully, like it was made of gold. I promise, Lewis. I'll keep it forever. Stevenage, autumn 1996, but life had other plans. When Lewis was 11 and Zara was 9, everything changed. Mr. Patel lost his job at the local factory. The corner shop wasn't making enough money to support the family. Bills piled up on their kitchen table like autumn leaves. Lewis didn't understand why Zara seemed so sad all the time. She still came to his races, still cheered when he won, but something was different. She would stare at nothing for long periods, and sometimes he caught her mother crying in the shop point one evening. Lewis found Zara sitting alone under their oak tree. She was holding the racing car keychain, tears streaming down her face. "What's wrong?" Lewis asked, sitting beside her. "We have to move," Zara whispered. "To Birmingham. My dad found a job there." Lewis felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. "But you can't leave. We're best friends." "I know," Zara sobbed. "I don't want to go, but Mom says we have to. We can't afford to stay here anymore." They sat under the tree in silence, watching. The sun set over Stevenage. Lewis had never felt so helpless. He was used to solving problems by going faster, by trying harder, but this was beyond his control. "When?" he asked finally. "Next week." Lewis felt tears in his own eyes now. "But what? About our promise? What about being friends forever?" Zara looked at the keychain in her hands. "I'll keep this safe. No matter what happens, I'll keep it safe. And someday, when you're a famous driver, I'll find you and give it back." The night before Zara left, Lewis couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about all the adventures they'd never have, all the races she'd never see. He thought about the oak tree and their carved promise, and wondered if anyone would remember it was there. The next morning, Lewis watched from his bedroom window as the Patel family loaded their belongings into a small moving truck. Zara stood on the sidewalk, looking up at his window. She held up the keychain so he could see it, then pressed it to her heart. Lewis pressed his hand against the window glass, wishing he could run outside and stop them from leaving. But he knew he couldn't. Some things were bigger than an 11-year-old. Boy's wishes that as the truck drove away, Lewis made himself a promise. He would become the best racing driver in the world. He would win championships and travel to every country. And somehow, someday, he would find Zara again. Monaco, present-day. Lewis blinked, bringing himself back to the present. Zara was sitting across from him in the interview room, adjusting her recording device. She was no longer the little girl with pigtails who used to cheer at his races. She was a woman now, with kind eyes and a gentle smile that still reminded him of home. "Are you ready to start?" she asked professionally. Lewis nodded, but his heart was pounding. 20 years had passed since that day in Stevenage. 20 years of wondering what happened to his best friend. And now here she was, sitting across from him like a gift from the past. But something was different about her. There was a sadness in her eyes that hadn't been there when they were children. And the way she kept fidgeting with something in her pocket. Was it possible she still had that old keychain? "Lewis." Zara's voice brought him back to the present. "Should we begin?" "Yes," he said, looking directly into her eyes. "Let's begin." Zara pressed the record button on her device, her hands trembling slightly. She cleared her throat and tried to sound professional. "This is Zara Patel from Racing World magazine, speaking with Lewis Hamilton at the Monaco Grand Prix. Lewis, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today." Lewis smiled, but his eyes never left her face. "Thank you for having me, Zara." The way he said her name made her heart skip. She looked down at her notepad, trying to focus on her prepared questions. "Let's start with your thoughts on this weekend's race. Monaco is always special for drivers. What does it mean to you?" "Monaco has always been magical," Lewis said, his voice warm. "It's where legends are made. The history, the glamour, the challenge of racing through these narrow streets. It never gets old." Zara nodded, scribbling notes. But as Lewis talked about the track, she found herself remembering a different conversation. She was 8 years old, sitting in the Patel family's corner shop, listening to Lewis describe his dreams of racing in Monaco someday. "You've been coming here for many years now," she continued. "How has your relationship with this track changed over time?" Lewis paused, studying her face. "It's funny you asked that. I've been thinking about the past a lot lately, about how some things change completely while others stay exactly the same." Their eyes met, and Zara felt heat rise in her cheeks. This was supposed to be a professional interview, but Lewis was making it personal with every answer. "Tell me about your preparation for this race," she said, trying to steer the conversation back to safe ground. "Well, preparation is everything," Lewis said. "But sometimes, unexpected things happen that can throw off your entire focus. Like seeing an old friend after 20 years. Zara's pen stopped moving. "Lewis, we should probably stick to racing questions. Should we?" Lewis leaned forward. "Because I have to say, this is the most interesting interview I've done in years. The journalist asking the questions seems to know exactly what I'm thinking." "I'm just doing my job," Zara said quietly. "Are you?" "Because I remember a little girl who used to ask me about racing. She wanted to know everything. How fast the karts could go, what it felt like to win, whether I ever got scared. You ask questions the same way she did." Zara's hands were shaking now. She put down her pen and looked at him. "Lewis, please." "Please what? Please pretend we don't know each other? Please act like you haven't been following my career for 20 years. How do you know I've been following your career?" Lewis smiled sadly. "Because I know you, Zara. I know you better than almost anyone, even after all this time. You wouldn't be here, asking these questions, if you hadn't been watching." Zara felt tears building in her eyes. "I have been watching. Every race, every victory, every championship. I celebrated when you won your first title. I cried when you had difficult seasons. I've been so proud of you. Then why didn't you contact me? Why didn't you let me know you were okay?" Zara was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver object. Lewis's eyes widened as he recognized it. "The keychain," he whispered. "I kept it," Zara said, her voice breaking. "All these years. Through everything that happened, I kept it safe." Lewis reached across the table and touched the keychain with one finger. It was tarnished now, worn smooth from years of handling. But it was still there, still the same little racing car he'd given her under the oak tree. "I can't believe you still have it," he said, his own voice thick with emotion. "I promised I would keep it safe," Zara said. "I promised I would give it back when you became a famous driver." "Well, I'm famous now," Lewis said with a shaky laugh. "So I guess it's time." But Zara closed her fist around the keychain. "Not yet. I'm not ready yet." "Why not? What's wrong, Zara? What happened to you after you left Stevenage?" Zara looked away, unable to meet his eyes. "Life happened, Lewis. Life got complicated." "How complicated?" "We moved to Birmingham, like I told you. Dad found work at a factory there. But it was hard. Really hard. We lived in a tiny flat, and money was always tight. I had to grow up fast." Lewis felt his heart breaking for her. "I'm so sorry. I wish I could have helped. You couldn't have done anything. You were just a kid too." Zara wiped her eyes. "But I want you to know, watching you succeed gave me hope. When things got really bad, I would watch your races and remember that dreams can come true." "What do you mean, when things got really bad?" Zara hesitated. She started to speak, then stopped. She looked down at the keychain in her hands, then back at Lewis. "There are things I can't tell you. Things that would change everything." "What kind of things?" "The kind that are better left in the past." Lewis reached across the table and took her hand. "Zara, whatever it is, you can tell me. We're friends. We've always been friends." "Are we?" Zara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "After 20 years? After everything that's happened? Of course we are. Nothing could change that." Zara looked into his eyes, and for a moment, Lewis thought she was going to tell him whatever secret she was carrying. But then she pulled her hand away and turned off the recording device. "I think we have enough for the interview," she said, trying to sound professional again. "Zara, wait. Don't shut me out. Not again. I'm not shutting you out. I'm protecting you." "From what?" "From the truth." Lewis felt frustrated. "What truth? What are you so afraid of?" Zara stood up, clutching the keychain tightly. "I'm afraid that if I tell you the truth, you'll hate me. Or worse, you'll feel sorry for me." "I could never hate you. You say that now, but you don't know what I've done, what I've kept from you." "Then tell me." "I can't." Zara's voice was firm now. "I won't." She moved toward the door, but Lewis stood up too. "Zara, please. Don't walk away from me again. I've spent 20 years wondering what happened to you. Don't make me spend another 20 years wondering what you're hiding." Zara stopped with her hand on the door handle. Without turning around, she said, "Some secrets are too big to share, Lewis. Some truths are too painful to speak. Let me be the judge of that." "No," Zara said softly. "This is my burden to carry, not yours." She opened the door and stepped into the hallway. Lewis followed her, but she was already walking away quickly, the keychain still clutched in her fist. "Zara," he called after her. She turned back one last time. "Thank you for the interview, Lewis. It was good to see you again." And then she was gone, leaving Lewis standing alone in the hallway, more confused and heartbroken than he'd ever been after losing a race. Lewis spent the rest of qualifying thinking about Zara's words. Every time he took a corner, he heard her voice saying, "Some secrets are too big to share." When he crossed the finish line in third position, his first thought wasn't about the race. It was about finding her. After the session ended, Lewis changed out of his racing suit and searched the paddock. He asked other journalists if they'd seen Zara, but no one knew where she'd gone. Finally, one of the Mercedes PR team members told him she'd left the circuit an hour ago. Lewis felt panic rising in his chest. What if she disappeared again? What if he'd lost her for another 20 years? He grabbed his phone and called the Racing World magazine office. After being transferred 3 times, he finally reached someone who knew Zara. "She's staying at the Hotel Hermitage," the editor told him. But Lewis, she seemed very upset when she filed her story. "Is everything okay?" "I hope so," Lewis said, already walking toward the exit. The Hotel Hermitage was a short walk from the circuit. Lewis found Zara sitting alone on the hotel's terrace, staring out at the Mediterranean Sea. She looked small and tired, nothing like the confident journalist who had interviewed him hours earlier. "Mind if I sit?" Lewis asked gently. Zara looked up, surprised. "How did you find me? I can be very determined when I want something." Lewis sat down beside her. "And I want to understand what's happening with you." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the boats in Monaco's harbor. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "I'm sorry about earlier," Zara said finally. "I didn't mean to run away like that. It's just, seeing you again brought back so many memories." "Good memories or bad memories?" "Both." Zara smiled sadly. "The good ones hurt because they remind me of what we lost. The bad ones hurt because they remind me of why I had to stay away." Lewis turned to face her. "Zara, whatever happened in Birmingham, whatever you're carrying, it doesn't have to stay buried. Friends help each other. You keep saying we're friends, but are we really? You're Lewis Hamilton. You're famous all over the world. You have millions of fans and more money than you could ever spend. I'm just a girl from Stevenage who writes about sports. You're not just anything," Lewis said firmly. "You're the person who believed in my dreams before anyone else did. You're the person who kept my keychain for 20 years. You're my oldest friend." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "I've missed you so much, Lewis. You have no idea how much." "Then, why did you stay away? Why didn't you contact me?" Zara was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because some mistakes can't be undone. Some choices change everything forever." "What kind of choices?" Instead of answering, Zara stood up. "Come on, let's walk. I'll show you my Monaco." They left the hotel and walked through the quiet streets of Monte Carlo. Away from the race crowds, Monaco felt like a different world. The streets were narrow and winding, lined with expensive shops and cafes. "I've been coming here for work for 3 years," Zara explained as they walked. "I love how peaceful it gets in the evenings, after all the tourists go home." They passed the famous Casino de Monte Carlo, its golden lights reflecting off the marble steps. Lewis had been here many times for events and parties, but tonight it looked different walking beside Zara. "Do you remember," Zara said, "when we used to pretend we were rich? We'd walk through Stevenage town center and imagine we owned all the shops." Lewis laughed. "And you always said you'd buy the bookstore first, so you could read every book in the world." "I still want to do that," Zara said. "Read every book, see every country, write every story." "Have you seen other countries, I mean?" "A few. My job takes me to different races across Europe. It's not exactly traveling the world, but it's more than I ever thought I'd see growing up in that tiny Birmingham flat." Lewis heard the sadness in her voice again. "Tell me about Birmingham. What was it really like?" Zara stopped walking. They were standing on a cliff overlooking the harbor. The lights of Monaco spread out below them like scattered diamonds. "It was hard," she said simply. "Harder than anything you could imagine. We had no money, no friends, no hope. Dad worked double shifts at the factory, but it was never enough. Mom took cleaning jobs at night. I helped in whatever ways I could. What kind of ways? I got a paper route when I was 10. I babysat the neighbor's kids. I helped Mom with her cleaning jobs on weekends. Zara's voice was steady, but Louis could see her hands shaking. I grew up fast, Louis. I had to. I'm so sorry. I wish I'd known. I wish I could have helped. You were 11 years old. What could you have done? I don't know. Something. Anything. They continued walking past expensive restaurants and designer boutiques. Louis thought about his own childhood, how his father had worked multiple jobs too, but somehow they'd always managed. They'd never been rich, but they'd never been desperate either. Do you ever regret it? Zara asked suddenly. All of this. The fame, the pressure, the constant attention. Louis considered the question. Sometimes. It can be lonely, being in the spotlight all the time. People think they know you, but they only know the image. They don't know the real person underneath. Who is the real person underneath? I don't know if I remember anymore, Louis admitted. I've been Lewis Hamilton, the racing driver, for so long. I sometimes forget how to just be Louis. You're being Louis right now, Zara said softly. The Louis I remember. Kind, thoughtful, a little bit lost. Was I lost as a kid? Not lost exactly, but always searching for something. Always wanting more. Always believing there was something bigger waiting for you. And was there? Yes, Zara said, stopping to look at him. Look at everything you've achieved. You found exactly what you were searching for. Did I? Because right now, walking with you, this feels more real than any championship I've ever won. Zara's breath caught. Louis, I mean it. I've spent 20 years achieving everything I thought I wanted, but I've been missing something the whole time. I've been missing the person who knew me before I was famous. The person who believed in me when I was just a kid with big dreams. I'm not that little girl anymore, and I'm not that little boy, but maybe that's okay. Maybe we can figure out who we are now, together. Zara looked away, toward the harbor. It's not that simple. Why not? Because. Zara started to speak, then stopped. She looked like she was fighting a war inside herself. Because there are things you don't know about me. Things that would change how you see me. Like what? I can't tell you. Why not? Because once I do, there's no going back. Everything changes. Louis stepped closer to her. Maybe everything needs to change. Zara looked up at him, and for a moment, Louis thought she was going to tell him her secret. Her lips parted, and she took a deep breath, but then her phone buzzed. She looked down at it, and her face went pale. I have to go, she said quickly. What? Why? I have to make a call. It's important. Zara, wait. But she was already walking away, her phone pressed to her ear. Louis watched her go, feeling more frustrated than ever. Every time they got close to the truth, something pulled her away. As she disappeared around a corner, Louis heard her voice carried on the evening breeze. Hi, sweetheart. How was school today? Louis stood frozen. Sweetheart. Who was she talking to? For the first time since seeing Zara again, Louis realized there might be parts of her life he knew nothing about. Important parts. Parts that might explain why she seemed so afraid to let him back in. Louis walked back to his hotel slowly, his mind spinning with questions. Who was Zara talking to? The way she'd said sweetheart sounded so natural, so loving. And asking about school meant it was definitely a child. But whose child? When he reached his room, Louis grabbed his phone to call his father Anthony. He needed advice from someone who remembered Zara and understood how much their friendship had meant to him. But before he could dial, his phone started buzzing with notifications. Text messages, missed calls, social media alerts, dozens of them, all coming in at once. What the hell? Louis muttered, opening his Instagram. The first thing he saw made his heart stop. A photo of him and Zara in the paddock, posted by a racing photographer named Marco Rossi. The image was perfect. Louis's shocked, emotional expression as he recognized her, and Zara's nervous but genuine smile. The caption read, "Exclusive. Lewis Hamilton reunites with mystery woman at Monaco GP. Sources say they were childhood friends." Look at that emotion. Checkered flag, red heart, hashtag Lewis Hamilton, hashtag Monaco GP, hashtag reunion. The photo already had over 50,000 likes and thousands of comments. Louis scrolled through them, his stomach sinking. Who is she? She's beautiful. Louis looks like he's seen a ghost face screaming in fear. OMG, his face. He's totally in love. Is this his new girlfriend? What happened to his last relationship? She looks familiar. Where have I seen her before? Louis's phone rang. It was his Mercedes PR manager, Sarah Chun. Louis, we need to talk, Sarah said without greeting. Have you seen social media? I'm looking at it right now. The story is everywhere. Sky Sports, BBC, ESPN, everyone wants to know who she is. We've had 50 interview requests in the past hour. Louis sat down heavily on his bed. It's not what it looks like. What is it then? Because that photo tells a pretty clear story. You look like you've seen the love of your life. Louis was quiet for a moment. Maybe he had. She's an old friend, he said finally. We knew each other as kids. Just friends? Yes. No. I don't know, Sarah. It's complicated. Well, it needs to become uncomplicated fast. You have interviews tomorrow, and they're all going to ask about her. What do you want me to tell them? Tell them it's private. Louis, you know, that won't work. The more private you keep it, the more they'll dig. TMZ is probably already trying to find out who she is. Louis felt panic rising. The last thing he wanted was for reporters to invade Zara's life. She was already scared and secretive. Media attention would only make things worse. Can you try to control it somehow? I'll do my best. But Louis, if there's anything about this situation that could become a problem, you need to tell me now. There's nothing, Louis said. But even as he said it, he thought about Zara's mysterious phone call. At least, I don't think there is. After hanging up with Sarah, Louis continued scrolling through social media. The story was growing bigger by the hour. Hashtag Lewis Hamilton Reunion was trending on Twitter. Fan accounts were sharing the photo with romantic captions and heart emojis. Then Louis saw something that made his blood run cold. A Twitter account called at F1 Detective had posted. Found her. Zara Patel, sports journalist from Birmingham. Used to live in Stevenage. Working on finding more info, Louis's hands were shaking as he clicked on the account. The user had already posted several photos. Zara's professional headshot from Racing World magazine, screenshots of her articles, and even an old photo from a Stevenage local newspaper dated 1995. The old photo showed 8-year-old Zara standing beside 10-year-old Louis at a karting event. They were both grinning, Louis holding a small trophy while Zara gave him a thumbs up. The caption from the original newspaper read, "Local boy Lewis Hamilton wins another race," cheered on by best friend Zara Patel. The comments on this post were exploding. Childhood SWETCHERTS. This is so cute. Look how young they were. True love always finds a way back. Red heart. Plot twist. She's been secretly in love with him this whole time. This is better than any romance movie. Louis felt sick. Within hours, their private reunion had become public entertainment. Millions of strangers were commenting on their relationship, making up stories, turning their real emotions into social media content. Meanwhile, in her hotel room, Zara stared at her laptop screen in horror. Her phone had been buzzing for hours, but she'd been too afraid to look at it. Now she understood why. Her face was everywhere. The photo from the paddock, the old newspaper image, even her professional headshots were being shared thousands of times. Her private life was being examined by complete strangers. Her phone rang. It was her editor at Racing World magazine. "Zara, this is incredible," James Burke said excitedly. "The traffic on our website has increased by 500% since your Lewis Hamilton article went live. Everyone wants to know more about your connection to him." "James, this is a nightmare." "Are you kidding? This is the biggest story of the year. I want you to write a follow-up piece. An exclusive about your childhood friendship with Lewis Hamilton. Think about it. The girl who knew Lewis before he was famous. It could make your career." "No," Zara said firmly. "Absolutely not." "Why not?" "This is exactly the kind of personal story that readers love. Because it's not just a story. It's my life. Our lives. I won't turn our friendship into clickbait." "Zara, be smart about this. This opportunity won't come again." I said, "No, James. And if you try to pressure me or publish anything without my permission, I'll quit." Zara hung up and immediately called the person she'd been talking to earlier that evening. "Hi, Mom," she said when Mrs. Patel answered. "Zara, sweetheart, I've been so worried. I've seen the news online. Are you okay?" "I don't know. Everything is spinning out of control. Maybe it's time," her mother said gently. "Maybe it's time to tell him the truth." "I can't, Mom. You know I can't." "Why not?" "He deserves to know. Because it will ruin everything. His career, his life, his happiness. I won't do that to him." What about your happiness? What about Marcus's happiness? Zara closed her eyes at the mention of that name. The name that explained everything. Her fear, her secrecy, her 20 years of silence. Marcus is fine. He doesn't need to know about any of this. Zara, he's 14 years old. He's been asking more questions about his father lately. And now, with all this attention, no one knows about Marcus. No one will find out. Are you sure? These internet people seem very good at finding information. Zara felt terror grip her heart. She hadn't thought about that. What if the social media detectives dug deeper? What if they found out about her son? I have to go, Mom. Give Marcus my love and tell him I'll call him tomorrow. Zara, wait. But Zara had already hung up. She walked to the hotel window and looked out at the glittering lights of Monaco. Somewhere out there, Louis was probably dealing with his own version of this chaos. She pulled out the racing car keychain and held it tightly. For 20 years, she'd kept his secret safe. But now, with the whole world watching, she wondered how much longer she could keep her own secret hidden. Her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Ms. Patel, this is investigative journalist David Walsh from the Sunday Times. I'd like to speak with you about your relationship with Lewis Hamilton. I'm particularly interested in your time in Birmingham after leaving Stevenage. Please call me. Zara's hands were shaking as she deleted the message. But she knew more would come. They always did when a story got this big. She thought about Marcus. Safely at home with his grandmother, probably doing homework and watching television. He had no idea that his mother's face was all over the internet, or that people were digging into their quiet life in Birmingham. Most importantly, he had no idea that his father was Lewis Hamilton, and Zara was determined to keep it that way, no matter what it cost her. Race day at Monaco dawned bright and clear. The Mediterranean sun sparkled off the harbor as thousands of fans filled the grandstands. But for Lewis Hamilton, this felt like the most important race of his life, not because of points or championships, but because Zara would be watching. Lewis sat in the Mercedes garage, trying to focus on his race engineer's final briefing. But his mind kept wandering to the media storm that had erupted overnight. His phone had been buzzing all morning with messages from friends, family, and reporters. Everyone wanted to know about the mystery woman. "Lewis, are you listening?" asked his engineer, Tom Wilson. "Sorry, what?" "I said the track temperature is perfect for the medium tire compound. Are you feeling okay? You seem distracted." Lewis nodded, but he wasn't okay. He'd barely slept, thinking about Zara's strange phone call and the way she'd run away again. The photo of them together was everywhere now. He'd seen it on breakfast, television, sports websites, even celebrity gossip blogs. Just race day nerves. Lewis lied. In the media center, Zara sat at her assigned desk, trying to look professional. But inside, she was falling apart. Her phone had received 50 calls from unknown numbers since 6 a.m. Her hotel room phone wouldn't stop ringing. She'd stopped answering both. Other journalists kept glancing at her, whispering among themselves. Everyone knew she was the woman from the viral photo. Some tried to approach her for comments, but she politely declined and focused on her laptop screen. Zara Patel. A voice behind her made her jump. She turned to see a tall man in an expensive suit holding a business card. "I'm Michael Torres from Celebrity Weekly. I wanted to offer you an exclusive deal for your story with Lewis Hamilton. We're talking serious money here." "I'm not interested," Zara said firmly. "Think about it. This could change your life. Financial, security, career opportunities." I said I'm not interested. The man left his card on her desk anyway. "Call me when you change your mind." "And you will change your mind. Everyone has a price." Zara crumpled up the card and threw it in the trash. But she couldn't throw away the fear that was growing in her chest. How long before someone discovered the real story? How long before they found out about Marcus? The race began with Lewis starting from 5th position. As the cars roared away from the starting line, Zara found herself gripping her desk so tightly. Her knuckles turned white. For the first 10 laps, Lewis drove perfectly. He moved up to 4th position, then 3rd. The commentators praised his skill and racekraft. But Zara could see something the commentators couldn't. Lewis was driving with his heart instead of his head. On lap 15, Lewis made his first mistake. He braked too late going into the famous Monaco hairpin turn and had to take a wide line to avoid hitting the barriers. The error cost him a position. "Come on, Lewis," Zara whispered under her breath. The journalist sitting next to her, Sarah, Mitchell from BBC Sport noticed her reaction. "You seem very invested in this race," Sarah observed. "More than usual for a journalist." Zara tried to look casual. "I just appreciate good driving." "Is that all?" "Because that photo of you two yesterday suggests something more personal." Zara's heart raced. "We're old friends. That's all." "Old friends who haven't seen each other in 20 years? That's quite a story." Before Zara could respond, Lewis made another mistake. This time he missed his braking point at Portier Corner and had to slow down dramatically to avoid the barriers. The crowd gasped, and Zara couldn't stop herself from gasping too. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, genuinely concerned now. "I'm fine," Zara said, but tears were building in her eyes. On the track, Lewis was struggling more than he had in years. Every corner reminded him of something. The way Zara used to watch his races as children, the sound of her voice saying his name, the mystery of her secret phone call. His race engineer's voice crackled through the radio. "Lewis, you need to focus. You're losing time in every sector." "I know," Lewis replied, frustrated with himself. "I'm trying." But trying wasn't enough. On lap 25, Lewis ran wide at the swimming pool section and dropped to 6th position. In the media center, Zara watched in agony as other drivers passed him. She remembered being 8 years old, standing at the fence of Rye House Kart Circuit, cheering as Lewis won race after race. Now, 20 years later, she was watching him struggle, and it was partly her fault. "This is unlike Lewis," the TV commentator said. "He's usually so calm and focused at Monaco. Something must be affecting his concentration." Zara knew exactly what was affecting his concentration. Despite his struggles, Lewis managed to recover in the final third of the race. His experience and skill took over, and he climbed back up to 3rd position. When he crossed the finish line, Zara felt a mixture of relief and pride, but she also felt guilt. Lewis Hamilton was one of the greatest drivers in the world, and she had distracted him during one of the sport's most important races. After the race, reporters surrounded Lewis for interviews. The first question wasn't about his driving. "Lewis, can you comment on the viral photo of you with journalist Zara Patel? Social media is calling it the reunion of the year." Lewis looked directly into the camera, his expression serious but gentle. "Zara Patel is someone very special to me. She's been part of my life since we were children in Stevenage. Yesterday was the first time I'd seen her in 20 years. Are you romantically involved? Zara represents the best part of my childhood. She reminds me why I started racing in the first place. She believed in my dreams before anyone else did, and seeing her again, it brought back a lot of emotions. Will we see more of her at future races?" Lewis paused, thinking about how she'd run away twice now. "I hope so. I really hope so." In the media center, Zara watched the interview with tears streaming down her face. The way Lewis spoke about her, with such warmth and respect, made her heart break even more. He was protecting her privacy while still being honest about his feelings. After the interview, Zara packed up her things quickly. She needed to get back to her hotel room before anyone else tried to corner her for quotes or photos. But as she walked through the paddock, she heard someone call her name. "Zara." She turned to see Lewis jogging toward her, still in his racing suit. He looked tired but determined. "Can we talk?" he asked when he reached her. "Lewis, I can't. Not here. There are too many cameras." "Then come with me. Somewhere private." Zara looked around at all the people watching them. More phones were already out, recording their conversation. "Please," Lewis said softly. "After everything that's happened today, I need to talk to you." Zara saw the emotion in his eyes. The same eyes she saw every time she looked at Marcus. The resemblance was so strong, she wondered how no one else had noticed it yet. "Okay," she said finally, "but not here. My hotel has a private garden. No cameras, no reporters." As they walked away together, phones clicked and cameras flashed behind them. The image of Lewis still in his racing suit, walking beside Zara with his hand gently on her back, would be online within minutes. But for once, Zara didn't care about the cameras. She was too busy thinking about what she was going to tell Lewis when they were finally alone. Because after watching him struggle during the race, after seeing how much their reunion had affected him, she knew she couldn't keep lying much longer. The truth was becoming too heavy to carry alone, and maybe, just maybe, it was time to share that weight with the one person who deserved to know it most. At Lewis's hotel was one of Monaco's most exclusive, tucked away from the main streets where photographers couldn't easily follow. The private garden he'd mentioned was a small oasis of peace, surrounded by high walls and filled with olive trees and lavender bushes. They sat on a stone bench beside a small fountain. The sound of flowing water helped mask their conversation from any listening ears. For the first time since their reunion, they were truly alone. "I'm sorry about the race," Zara said quietly. "I know I distracted you." Louis shook his head. "You didn't distract me. Seeing you again has been the best thing that's happened to me in years. I have so many questions, and you keep running away." "I'm not running away anymore," Zara said, though her hands were trembling. "I'm here now." "Are you? Because even sitting next to me, you seem like you're ready to bolt." Zara looked down at her hands. "It's complicated, Louis. My life after Stevenage. It wasn't the adventure I dreamed about as a little girl." "Tell me about it. Tell me everything." Zara took a deep breath. This was the moment she'd been dreading and hoping for since she saw him in the paddock. "When we moved to Birmingham, everything fell apart. Dad's new job didn't pay as much as we'd hoped. We lived in a tiny flat in a rough neighborhood. The walls were so thin we could hear our neighbors fighting every night." Louis listened without interrupting, sensing that she needed to tell this story her way. "I was 13 when Dad got laid off again," Zara continued. "Mom started working 3 cleaning jobs just to pay rent. I got a job at a corner shop after school, lying about my age. We survived on beans and toast most days." "God, Zara, I had no idea it was that bad. How could you? We were just kids when I left." "But the worst part wasn't the poverty. It was the loneliness. I missed you so much, Louis. I missed having someone who understood my dreams." Louis reached over and took her hand. "I missed you too. Every single day. I used to watch your races on the old television in our flat. When you won your first Formula One race, I cried for an hour. I was so proud, but also so sad that I couldn't be there to celebrate with you. Why didn't you contact me then? Once I was famous, it would have been easy to find me." Zara was quiet for a long moment. "Because by then, everything had changed. I wasn't the same girl who left Stevenage. Life had forced me to make choices that I couldn't undo." "What kind of choices?" This was it. The moment Zara had been preparing for and avoiding for 14 years. She looked into Louis's eyes, the same warm brown eyes she saw every morning when Marcus came down for breakfast. "Louis, when I was 14, she began, then stopped. Her heart was pounding, so hard she thought it might burst. When you were 14, what? Something happened that changed everything. Something that made it impossible for me to reach out to you." Louis leaned forward, sensing they were approaching something important. "What happened?" "I made a decision. That affected not just my life, but someone else's life too. Someone innocent who didn't ask to be part of any of this." "Zara, you're scaring me. What are you talking about?" Before she could answer, Louis's phone buzzed loudly. He glanced at it, and his face changed. "It's my manager. He says it's urgent." Louis looked torn. "Can I take this quickly? I promise we'll continue right after." Zara nodded, though inside she felt relief and disappointment in equal measure. She'd been so close to telling him about Marcus, but maybe the universe was giving her one more chance to reconsider. Louis stepped a few feet away to take the call. "What's so urgent, Simon?" "Louis, we have a problem. That journalist who's been investigating your friend Zara? He's found something. He's threatening to publish a story tomorrow unless we comment." Louis felt ice in his veins. "What kind of story?" "He says he has information about Zara's life in Birmingham. Something about a child." Louis looked back at Zara, who was sitting on the bench with her head in her hands. "A child?" The phone call from last night suddenly made sense. "How was school today?" she'd said. "What exactly does he know?" Louis asked quietly. "He won't say, but he's asking for comment on what he calls the secret that will change everything." "Louis, if there's something about this woman that could hurt your career, you need to distance yourself now." "No," Louis said firmly. "Whatever this is, I'm not abandoning her." "Louis, think carefully. You've worked your whole life to build your reputation. Don't throw it away for someone you haven't seen in 20 years. I said no, Simon. Figure out a way to stop this story." Louis hung up and walked back to Zara. She looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "That was about me, wasn't it?" she asked. "How did you know?" "Because this is exactly what I was afraid of. The media digging into my past, finding things that should stay private." "Zara, what is it they're going to find? What's this about a child?" Zara stood up abruptly. I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't. Yes, you can. Whatever it is, we can face it together. No, Louis. You don't understand. This isn't just about me. There's someone else involved. Someone who deserves privacy and protection. Who? Whose child are we talking about? Zara looked at him with such pain in her eyes that Louis felt his heart breaking. Louis, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that no matter what you hear, no matter what anyone tells you, you'll remember that everything I did was out of love. For you and for him. Him? Zara, who are you talking about? But before she could answer, they heard voices approaching from the hotel. Multiple voices, and one of them was shouting questions. Mr. Hamilton, we know you're here. We just want to ask about your relationship with Ms. Patel. How did they find us? Louis asked angrily. Someone must have followed us, Zara said, panic rising in her voice. Louis, I have to go. If they see us together again, it will only make things worse. No, you can't keep running. We need to finish this conversation. There's nothing left to say that won't hurt everyone involved. Everyone? How many people are we talking about here? Zara looked at him one last time, memorizing his face. Just remember what I said about love, Louis. Remember that some sacrifices are made out of love. She started to walk toward the garden's back exit, but Louis caught her arm. Zara, please, don't do this again. Don't leave me with more questions than answers. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. But some secrets are bigger than the people keeping them. What secret? Just tell me. But Zara pulled free and disappeared through the garden gate, leaving Louis standing alone as the voices of reporters grew closer. He looked down at the stone bench where they'd been sitting and saw something glinting in the fading sunlight. The racing car keychain. She'd left it behind. Louis picked it up, remembering the promise they'd made as children. She'd said she would return it when he became a famous driver. Well, he was famous now, and she'd finally given it back. But why did it feel like goodbye instead of hello? As the reporters found their way into the garden, Louis slipped the keychain into his pocket and prepared to face another round of questions he couldn't answer. But this time, he had a feeling the questions were going to be much more difficult than anything about racing. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a terrible possibility was beginning to form. A possibility that would explain everything: Zara's fear, her secrecy, her 20 years of silence, and the mysterious child that reporters were so interested in. But it was a possibility too big, too life-changing to even consider, wasn't it? Louis barely slept that night. He lay in his hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, turning the racing car keychain over and over in his hands. Zara's words echoed in his mind. Some sacrifices are made out of love. And the way she'd said him, not them or us, but him. Hey, child. A boy, based on her language. Someone who went to school. Someone she called sweetheart. Louis's mind raced through the timeline. Zara had left Stevenage when she was 9 and he was 11. If something had happened when she was 14, that would have been 1999, 5 years after they'd said goodbye. But the math didn't add up to anything that made sense. They'd been children when she left. Just innocent kids who held hands and shared dreams under an oak tree. At 6 a.m., Louis gave up on sleep. He pulled on jogging clothes and went for a run along Monaco's quiet morning streets, hoping the exercise would clear his head. But with each step, the terrible possibility grew stronger. What if the unthinkable had happened? What if their childhood friendship had created something more lasting than just memories? Louis stopped running suddenly, his breath coming in short gasps that had nothing to do with exercise. He pulled out his phone and called the one person who might have answers. Dad, Louis said when Anthony Hamilton answered on the third ring. Louis? It's 6 in the morning. What's wrong? I need to ask you something about Zara. About when she lived in Stevenage. There was a pause. What about her? After she left, did you ever hear anything about her family? Anything about what happened to them in Birmingham? Why are you asking? Please, Dad. It's important. Anthony was quiet for a long moment. There were rumors, son, a few years after they moved. But I never wanted to burden you with gossip. Louis felt his heart stop. What kind of rumors? That the Patel girl had gotten herself into trouble. You know how people talk in small towns. But Louis, that was 20 years ago. Even if it was true, what does it matter now? Louis hung up without answering. His father's words confirmed his worst fears. Gotten herself into trouble. In the 1990s, that phrase usually meant only one thing. Meanwhile, Zara sat in Monaco's harbor area, watching the sunrise over the Mediterranean. She'd been there since 4 a.m., unable to stay in her hotel room with her thoughts. The racing car keychain was gone. She'd left it with Louis as she'd promised all those years ago. But instead of feeling free, she felt more trapped than ever. Her phone had been buzzing all night with messages from unknown numbers. Reporters, gossip bloggers, people offering money for her story. She'd turned it off hours ago, but she knew the calls would keep coming. A jogger ran past, then stopped and came back. Zara looked up to see a tourist, phone already out and recording. "Excuse me, aren't you the woman from the Lewis Hamilton photo?" The woman asked in an American accent. "I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong person," Zara said, standing to leave. "No, it's definitely you. This is so exciting. Can I get a selfie? Please." "I'd rather not." But the woman was already positioning her phone for a selfie, talking loudly to her camera. "OMG, you guys, I found her. I found Lewis Hamilton's mystery woman. She's here in Monaco by herself, looking super sad. This is definitely relationship drama." Zara tried to walk away, but the woman followed her, still filming. "Come on, just one quick interview. Tell us about you and Louis. Are you dating? Are you in love?" "Stop filming me," Zara said firmly. "I don't want to be recorded. But this is public property. I can film whatever I want." Zara started walking faster, but the woman kept following, narrating for her phone camera. "She's running away. This is definitely confirmation that there's drama here. Lewis Hamilton's mystery woman is clearly hiding something big." Other early morning joggers and tourists had started to notice the commotion. More phones came out. Soon, Zara was surrounded by people wanting photos and videos, all talking at once. "Is it true you've known Louis since childhood? Are you having his baby? How long have you been dating? What's your secret?" Zara felt panic rising in her chest. She was trapped in a circle of strangers, all filming her, all demanding answers she couldn't give. Her breathing became shallow, and black spots danced at the edges of her vision. "Please," she whispered. "Please just leave me alone." That's when Louis appeared. He'd been jogging nearby when he heard the commotion. When he saw Zara surrounded by tourists with phones, something protective and fierce awakened in him. He pushed through the crowd without caring about his own privacy. "Hey," he shouted. "Back off. Leave her alone." The crowd recognized him immediately, and the filming intensified. But Louis didn't care. He reached Zara and wrapped his arms around her, shielding her from the cameras. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Zara was shaking, tears streaming down her face. "I can't breathe. There are too many people." Louis looked at the crowd of tourists and fans, all still filming, all talking excitedly about catching this dramatic moment live. "Delete those videos," Louis said firmly to the crowd. "We don't have to," the American woman said defiantly. "This is public property. Delete them, or I'll call security," Louis said, his voice carrying an authority that made several people actually pause their recording, but it was too late. The videos were already being uploaded to social media. Within minutes, the footage would be everywhere. Lewis Hamilton protectively holding a crying Zara Patel, both of them clearly in emotional distress. Louis guided Zara away from the crowd, his arm around her shoulders. They found a quiet bench overlooking the harbor, away from the tourists. "I'm sorry," Zara sobbed. "I'm so sorry you had to see that. You have nothing to apologize for. Those people were way out of line. But now there will be more videos, more questions. It will never stop." Louis held her while she cried, and for a moment, they were just two people comforting each other. The fame, the media attention, the 20 years apart, none of it mattered. What mattered was that she was hurting, and he wanted to help. "Zara," he said softly, "whatever you're so afraid of, whatever secret you think will ruin everything, it can't be worse than this. It can't be worse than watching you suffer in silence." Zara looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. "You say that now, but you don't know. Then tell me. Help me understand." "Louis, what if I told you that seeing you again wasn't really a coincidence? What if I told you that I've been following your career for 20 years, not just as a fan, but for a much more personal reason?" Louis felt his heart racing. "What kind of personal reason? What if I told you that when I left Stevenage, I took a part of you with me? A part that's been growing up for 14 years, asking questions. About his father, the words hit Louis like a physical blow. His arms dropped from around Zara's shoulders, and he stared at her in shock. What are you saying? I'm saying that some secrets are too big to keep forever, and some children deserve to know who their father is. Louis stood up abruptly, his mind reeling. You're telling me, you're saying that I have a son, Zara whispered. His name is Marcus. He's 14 years old, and he has your eyes, your smile, and your love of racing. The harbor of Monaco suddenly felt like it was spinning around Louis. He sat back down heavily, staring at Zara as if she was a stranger. 14 years old, he repeated numbly. That means you became a father when you were 15 years old, and I became a mother when I was 13. Louis buried his face in his hands. A son. He had a son. A 14-year-old boy named Marcus who he'd never met, never held, never even known existed. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with tears. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were 15? Louis, you were a child with the biggest dreams in the world. How could I burden you with a baby? How could I ask you to give up everything you wanted for a mistake we made when we were too young to understand what we were doing? A mistake? Louis's voice was sharp now. You call our son a mistake? No. Marcus is the best thing that ever happened to me. But the circumstances, the situation we were in, we were children, Louis. Children who got carried away one summer afternoon and didn't understand the consequences. Louis tried to remember. One summer afternoon, they would have been 12 and 14. Had something happened that he'd forgotten? Something he blocked out because it was too confusing for a 12-year-old mind to process. I don't remember, he said quietly. You don't remember the day before I left? When we went to our oak tree to say goodbye? When we were both crying and holding each other, and Louis closed his eyes as the memory came flooding back. A kiss that had turned into something more. Two heartbroken children clinging to each other, not understanding what they were doing, only knowing they didn't want to say goodbye. Oh my God, he whispered. I found out I was pregnant 3 months after we moved to Birmingham. I was 13 years old, Louis. 13. I was so scared. I didn't tell my parents for 2 months. By then, it was too late for any other options. And you never thought to contact me. You were in the middle of your karting career. You were winning championships, getting noticed by sponsors. How could I ruin that by telling you that? You'd gotten a girl pregnant? What would that have done to your future? Louis looked out at the harbor, trying to process everything. Somewhere in Birmingham, there was a 14-year-old boy who was his son. A boy who looked like him, who loved racing like him, who had been growing up without a father while Louis achieved every dream he'd ever had. What's he like? Louis asked finally. Zara smiled through her tears. He's amazing. He's smart, funny, kind. He gets good grades in school. He loves science and music. And he watches every one of your races, even though he doesn't know. He doesn't know I'm his father. He knows his father is someone I knew growing up, someone who became successful, but he thinks you wouldn't want to know him. He thinks you have your own life and wouldn't be interested in a son you never planned for. Louis felt his heart breaking all over again. How could he think that? How could any child think their father wouldn't want them? Because that's what I told him. Because I thought it was kinder than the truth, that I never gave you the chance to want him. They sat in silence for several minutes, watching the boats in the harbor. Finally, Louis spoke. I want to meet him. Louis, I want to meet my son. Our son. Whatever you thought you were protecting me from, whatever you thought you were protecting him from, none of that matters now. I want to meet Marcus. Zara looked at him with hope and terror in her eyes. Are you sure? Once you meet him, everything changes. Your life, his life, my life. There's no going back. I've spent 20 years wondering what happened to you. I'm not spending another day wondering about my son. As if summoned by their conversation, Zara's phone buzzed with a text message. She looked at it, and her face went pale. What is it? Louis asked. It's from my mom. She says Marcus saw the videos from this morning. The ones of you protecting me. He's asking questions. Louis felt a strange mixture of pride and panic. His son had seen him protecting Marcus's mother. What must the boy be thinking? Zara, Louis said, taking her hand. It's time. It's time to stop protecting everyone from the truth. Zara nodded slowly. You're right. But Louis, before we do this, I need you to understand something. Marcus has lived his whole life thinking he wasn't wanted by his father. When he finds out the truth, he might be angry. He might blame both of us for keeping this secret. Then we'll deal with that together, Louis said firmly. All three of us. As they sat together in the morning sunlight, neither of them noticed the long lens camera capturing their emotional conversation from a nearby yacht. The photos, Louis holding Zara's hand, both of them crying, their obvious intimacy and intensity, would be online within the hour. The secret that Zara had kept for 14 years was about to become the biggest story in sports history. And somewhere in Birmingham, a 14-year-old boy named Marcus was about to discover that his father was the most famous racing driver in the world. In a small house in Birmingham, Marcus Patel sat at the kitchen table with his laptop open, watching the viral video for the 10th time. His grandmother, Mrs. Patel, stood behind him making tea, occasionally glancing at the screen with worried eyes. "Why is Mum crying, Nanny?" Marcus asked, using the Gujarati word for grandmother. "And why is Lewis Hamilton protecting her like that?" Mrs. Patel set down her teacup with shaking hands. For 14 years, she'd been waiting for this moment, dreading it and hoping for it in equal measure. "Marcus, beta," she said gently, using the endearing term for child. "I think it's time you knew the truth about your father." Marcus looked up from the laptop. He was tall for his age, with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile that made Mrs. Patel's heart ache every time she saw it. He looked so much like Louis at that age, it was impossible not to see the resemblance. "What truth?" "You always said my father was someone Mum knew growing up, but she never wanted to talk about it." Mrs. Patel sat down beside her grandson, the weight of 14 years of secrets heavy on her shoulders. "Your mother wanted to protect you and him, but sometimes protection becomes its own kind of harm." "Nanny, you're scaring me. What are you trying to say?" Before Mrs. Patel could answer, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from his best friend Jake. "Mate, is your mum dating Lewis Hamilton? This is all over TikTok." Marcus showed his grandmother the message. "Everyone at school is going to be asking me about this tomorrow. I need to know what's going on." Mrs. Patel took a deep breath. "Marcus, your father is Lewis Hamilton." The words hung in the air between them. Marcus stared at his grandmother as if she'd spoken in a foreign language. "That's not funny, Nanny. I'm not joking, beta. Lewis Hamilton is your father." Marcus's laptop slipped from his hands onto the table. "That's impossible. Mum would have told me. She would have. She was protecting you both. She was 13 when you were born, Marcus. Lewis was 15. They were children themselves." Marcus's mind raced through everything he knew about his life. His mother's mysterious past, her refusal to talk about his father, the way she always got emotional watching Formula One races. And those races, she'd been watching Lewis Hamilton win championships for as long as Marcus could remember. "She's been watching him on TV this whole time," Marcus whispered. "Watching my father win races, and she never told me. She thought it was for the best. She thought you would have a better life not knowing." "Better how?" "Better growing up thinking my father didn't want me. Better watching other kids with their dads and wondering what was wrong with me." Mrs. Patel felt tears in her eyes. "Oh, Marcus, there was nothing wrong with you. You were wanted. You were loved. Your mother just thought." "She thought what?" "That I couldn't handle the truth. That I was too weak to know my father was famous." Marcus stood up abruptly, pacing around the small kitchen. Everything he thought he knew about his life was crashing down around him. "Does he know?" Marcus asked suddenly. "Does Lewis Hamilton know I exist?" "Not until today. Your mother told him this morning. So for 14 years, she kept me secret from him too." Mrs. Patel nodded sadly. She thought she was doing the right thing. Marcus stopped pacing and looked at his grandmother with hurt and anger in his eyes. "The right thing?" "The right thing would have been letting us know each other. The right thing would have been giving us a choice." "Marcus, please try to understand. Your mother was just a child herself. She was scared, alone, trying to do what she thought was best for everyone." "Well, she was wrong," Marcus said firmly. "She was wrong about all of it." He grabbed his phone and started typing furiously. "What are you doing?" Mrs. Patel asked. "I'm calling her. I want to talk to her right now." In Monaco, Zara and Louis sat in Zara's hotel room, both of them emotionally drained from the morning's revelations. Louis had insisted on coming with her, not wanting to let her out of his sight again. They were trying to figure out how to handle the media storm when Zara's phone rang. "It's Marcus," she said, her face going pale. Louis felt his heart jump. His son was calling. his 14-year-old son whose voice he'd never heard. "Answer it," Lewis said gently. "It's time." Zara accepted the call and put it on speaker. "Hi, sweetheart." "Don't sweetheart me, Mom." Marcus's voice was young but firm, with hurt and anger clear in every word. "I know the truth. Nanny told me everything." Zara closed her eyes. "Marcus, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why you lied to me for 14 years? Can you explain why you let me think my father didn't want me?" Lewis felt his heart breaking at the pain in his son's voice. Without thinking, he leaned toward the phone. "Marcus," he said softly, "this is Lewis, and I want you to know that if I had known about you, I would have wanted to know you every single day of your life." There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then Marcus's voice, smaller now, more vulnerable. "Is that really you?" "Yes, it's really me. And I'm so sorry you've grown up thinking I didn't want you. That's the furthest thing from the truth. But you didn't know I existed." "No, I didn't. And that's something your mother and I need to talk about." "But Marcus, now that I do know, I want to be part of your life. If you'll let me." Another long pause. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was shaky with emotion. "I've watched every single one of your races since I was little. Mom always said we were watching because she was interested in motorsports for work. But really, I was watching my father, wasn't I?" Lewis felt tears rolling down his cheeks. "Yes, you were. And I wish I had known you were watching. I wish I could have been racing for you. I used to pretend," Marcus said quietly. "When you won championships, I used to pretend you were my dad and that you dedicated the wins to me. I know it sounds stupid. It doesn't sound stupid at all," Lewis said, his voice thick with emotion. "It sounds like exactly what I would have wanted. And from now on, every race I win will be for you." Zara was crying now, watching Lewis talk to their son for the first time. She could see the love and longing in Lewis's eyes, and she realized how selfish she'd been to keep them apart. "Marcus," Zara said through her tears, "I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you both, but I was wrong. I was so wrong." "Why, Mom? Why did you think it was better for me to grow up without a father?" "Because I was scared. I was 13 years old and pregnant, and I thought if I told Lewis, it would ruin his dreams. And I thought if I told you who he was, you'd be disappointed, that he wasn't part of your life. So instead you made the choice for all of us," Marcus said, his anger returning. "You decided that Lewis shouldn't know he had a son and that I shouldn't know who my father was." "Yes," Zara admitted, "and it was wrong. It was the biggest mistake of my life." Lewis leaned forward again. "Marcus, your mother made that choice. Out of love. It was the wrong choice, but it came from love. And now we have a chance to make it right." "How?" Marcus asked. "How do we make 14 years right?" "We start today," Lewis said simply. "We start right now. Marcus, would you like to meet me? In person?" There was a long pause. When Marcus spoke, his voice was small and hopeful. "You really want to meet me? More than anything in the world. I want to know everything about you. Your favorite subjects in school, your friends, your hobbies, your dreams. I want to know what makes you laugh and what makes you sad. I want to know my son. I want to know you too," Marcus admitted. "I have so many questions." "Then let's answer them together. Can I come to Birmingham? Can I meet you? You'd really do that? Come to Birmingham just to meet me?" "Marcus, I'd travel to the ends of the earth to meet you." Zara spoke up through her tears. "Marcus, there's something else you should know. The media has figured out that Lewis and I know each other. Soon, they'll probably figure out about you, too. Your life is about to change in ways we can't control." "What do you mean?" Lewis answered. "It means people will be very interested in you because you're my son. There will be reporters, photographers, people wanting to interview you. It won't be easy. Will you help me deal with it?" Marcus asked. "Every step of the way," Lewis promised. "We'll face it together. All three of us." Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was stronger. "Okay, come to Birmingham. Come meet me. But I want you to know that I'm not going to pretend the last 14 years didn't happen. I'm hurt, and I'm angry, and it's going to take time for me to trust both of you again." "That's fair," Lewis said. "That's completely fair. We'll take as much time as you need. And I want you to know that just because you're famous doesn't mean I'm going to be impressed easily. You're going to have to earn the right to be my father." Lewis smiled through his tears. His son had backbone, spirit, strength. "I wouldn't expect anything less. And Marcus, I'm already so proud of you. You don't even know me yet. I know you're brave enough to have this conversation. I know you're strong enough to stand up for yourself. I know you're smart enough to ask the right questions. That's enough for me to be proud." For the first time since the call began, Marcus's voice softened. "When can you come?" "How about tomorrow?" Louis said. "I'll cancel everything else. Nothing is more important than meeting my son." "Okay," Marcus said quietly. "Tomorrow." After they hung up, Louis and Zara sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Louis spoke. "He's incredible. Even angry and hurt, he's incredible. He gets that from you," Zara said. "The strength, the determination to stand up for what's right. He gets it from both of us. Zara, we made a beautiful, intelligent, brave young man. Despite everything, despite all the mistakes and secrets, we created something wonderful." Zara nodded, wiping her eyes. "Louis, are you sure about this? Once you meet him, once the world knows he exists, there's no going back. Your life will never be the same." Louis looked at her with absolute certainty in his eyes. "My life has been missing something for 14 years, and I never knew what it was. Now I know. It was him. It was our son." As they prepared for the most important journey of their lives, neither Louis nor Zara realized that their phone call had been overheard by a hotel employee who immediately sold the information to a tabloid journalist. Within hours, the headline would be screaming from every news website in the world. "Lewis Hamilton has a secret son. 14-year-old boy kept hidden for years." The reunion that should have been private was about to become the most watched story on the planet. Louis woke up at 5 a.m. to his phone buzzing nonstop. 57 missed calls, 234 text messages. His social media notifications had crashed his phone twice during the night. He grabbed his phone and saw the first headline from Sky Sports News. Exclusive: Lewis Hamilton's secret son, 14-year-old boy hidden for years. His hands shaking, Louis scrolled through article after article. Every major news outlet in the world was running the story. CNN, BBC, ESPN, even entertainment magazines that had never covered racing before. The photos were everywhere. Pictures of young Louis and Zara from Stevenage, recent photos of Marcus from his school website, and dozens of shots from the past few days in Monaco. Louis's phone rang. It was his father, Anthony. "Son, I've been watching the news all morning. Is it true?" "Yes, Dad. It's true. I have a son. Marcus. He's 14. Anthony was quiet for a long moment. "That means when you were 15. I know what it means, Dad. And before you ask, no, I didn't know. Zara kept it secret all these years." "My God, Louis. I have a grandson." Louis heard the emotion in his father's voice and felt his own eyes filling with tears. "Dad, I'm scared. I don't know how to be a father. I don't know anything about being a parent. You'll learn, just like I did when you were born. Love is the best teacher." After hanging up, Louis immediately called his Mercedes team manager. He needed to get to Birmingham today, no matter what it cost his racing schedule. "Louis, this is chaos," Sarah Chun said without greeting. "The phones haven't stopped ringing since 4 a.m. Everyone wants a statement. The team is in crisis mode. I need to get to Birmingham today. Can you arrange private transport?" "Louis, think about this carefully. If you go to Birmingham now, you'll confirm the story. There will be hundreds of photographers waiting. It will be a circus. I don't care. I'm meeting my son today, just like I promised. What about your image? Your sponsors? This story makes you look like you abandoned a child. Then we'll tell the truth, that I didn't know he existed." Sarah paused. "Louis, are you absolutely sure about this? Once you acknowledge this boy publicly, your life changes forever. Every decision you make will affect him too. My life already changed forever the moment I found out about him. Sarah, I need you to understand something. Racing has been my whole life for 30 years. But this boy, my son, he's more important than any championship." In Birmingham, the Patel family house was under siege. Reporters and photographers lined the street, cameras pointed at every window. News vans blocked the road. Neighbors gathered in small groups, pointing and whispering. Mrs. Patel peeked through the curtains at the chaos outside. "Marcus, Beta, you can't go to school today. It's not safe." Marcus sat at the kitchen table, staring at his laptop screen. His school friends had been sending him links all morning. His face was on every news website in the world. Headlines called him Lewis Hamilton's secret son and the hidden heir to F1 royalty. "This is insane," Marcus said. "Look at this. He showed his grandmother an article with photos of their house, his school, even the corner shop where he bought sweets. They found out everything about us. His phone buzzed constantly with friend requests on social media. Classmates he barely knew were messaging him, suddenly wanting to be his best friend. A reporter had somehow gotten his phone number and left 17 voicemails offering money for an exclusive interview. Nanny, what if I don't want this? What if I don't want to be Lewis Hamilton's son if it means living like this? Mrs. Patel sat beside him and took his hands. Marcus, fame is difficult, but family is forever. You have to decide what matters more. Before Marcus could answer, his mother called. Marcus, are you okay? I've seen the news coverage. I'm fine, but there are reporters everywhere. I can't even go outside. Lewis is coming today, but with all this attention, we need to be careful. He's arranging security and a private meeting. Place. Mom, I'm scared. What if meeting him changes everything? What if I don't like him? What if he doesn't like me? Zara's voice was gentle. Sweetheart, it's normal to be scared. But this is your chance to know your father. The real person, not the famous driver. Whatever happens, I'll be there with you. Promise. I promise. Lewis sat in the back of a black Mercedes with tinted windows as it drove through the streets of Birmingham. He wore a baseball cap and sunglasses, trying to stay unrecognized. His security team had arranged to meet Marcus and Zara at a private location away from the media circus as they drove through the city where his son had grown up. Lewis felt a mixture of wonder and sadness. These were the streets Marcus had walked to school. These were the parks where he'd played as a child. This was the world Lewis had never been part of. The car pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a small hotel. Lewis's hands were shaking as he walked toward the elevator. In a few minutes, he would meet his son for the first time. Zara was waiting in the lobby with a tall teenager who had Lewis's eyes and smile. Marcus wore jeans and a Manchester United shirt, looking like any normal 14-year-old except for the nervousness in his expression. For a moment, father and son just stared at each other. Lewis saw himself at that age. The same curious eyes, the same stubborn chin, the same way of standing with hands in pockets when uncertain. Hi, Lewis said softly. Hi, Marcus replied, his voice barely above a whisper. They stood there awkwardly until Zara spoke. Why don't we sit down? They found a quiet corner of the hotel lobby. Lewis couldn't stop looking at Marcus, memorizing every detail of his son's face. You look like me, Lewis said with wonder. But you look like your mom too. Everyone says I have your eyes, Marcus said. I never understood what they meant before. What do you like to do? For fun, I mean. Marcus relaxed slightly. I like science, chemistry especially, and I play football with my friends. And he hesitated. And what? I like go-karting. There's a track near here. I go sometimes on weekends. Lewis's face lit up. Really? Are you any good? For the first time, Marcus smiled. I'm not bad. The instructor says I have natural talent. Would you like to go karting together sometime? I could teach you some techniques. You do that? Marcus, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do anything with you. They talked for 2 hours. Lewis asked about school, friends, favorite subjects. Marcus asked about racing, traveling, what it was like being famous. Gradually, the awkwardness faded, and they began to connect as father and son. Can I ask you something? Marcus said eventually. Anything. Are you angry with Mom? For not telling you about me. Lewis looked at Zara, then back at Marcus. I was angry at first, but now I understand she was trying to protect both of us. She made a difficult choice when she was very young. But it was the wrong choice, wasn't it? Yes, Lewis said honestly. It was wrong. But sometimes people make mistakes out of love. And sometimes those mistakes can be fixed. How do we fix 14 years? We start with today. We start with getting to know each other. And we take it one day at a time. Marcus nodded slowly. I want to get to know you. But I need you to know that this is scary for me. My whole life just changed overnight. It's scary for me too, Lewis admitted. I don't know how to be a father. I've never done this before. But you want to learn? More than anything. Marcus studied his father's face for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change all their lives. Okay, let's try. But I have some rules. What kind of rules? First, no more secrets. From anyone. If we're going to be a family, we have to be honest with each other. Agreed, Lewis said immediately. Second, I don't want to be treated differently because you're famous. I don't want special privileges or people being nice to me just because of who my father is. That's going to be difficult, Lewis said honestly. But we'll figure it out. And third, I want to keep living with Mom and Nanny. This is my home. I don't want to move to Monaco or anywhere else. Lewis felt a pang of disappointment, but he nodded. Whatever makes you most comfortable. I'll visit as much as I can. Actually, Marcus said, surprising them both. I was thinking maybe you could visit a lot. Like, maybe you could get a place here in Birmingham too. So you could be close. Lewis's heart soared. You'd want that? Yeah, I think I would. Zara wiped tears from her eyes as she watched her son and Lewis begin to build a relationship. For 14 years, she'd carried the weight of her secret alone. Now, finally, they could face the future together. There's one more thing, Marcus said. The media stuff? The reporters and photographers. How do we handle that? Lewis took his son's hand for the first time. We handle it together. All three of us. And Marcus? I promise you that no matter how crazy the outside world gets, our family will always come first. Family, Marcus repeated, testing the word. I like the sound of that. As they sat together in the quiet hotel lobby, the three of them began to plan their future. Outside, the world was going crazy over the biggest sports story of the year. But inside, a father was meeting his son for the first time, and a family was finally coming together after 14 years apart. Lewis looked at Marcus and Zara and realized that every championship he'd ever won paled in comparison to this moment. He'd spent his life racing toward the finish line, but he'd just discovered that the real victory had been waiting for him in Birmingham all along. The boy sitting beside him wasn't just his son. He was Lewis's second chance at having the family he'd never known he wanted. And for the first time in 20 years, Lewis Hamilton felt like he'd finally come home. And that was the end of this incredible story about Lewis Hamilton's unexpected reunion with his childhood friend Zara and the life-changing secret that brought them together as a family after 20 years apart. That we'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us your city or country. It's amazing to connect with viewers from all around the world. That if you enjoyed this emotional journey, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for many more interesting and heartwarming stories like this one. Your support helps us bring you fresh content every week. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. Stories like these remind us of the power of love, forgiveness, and second chances. By sharing, you're helping spread kindness and awareness about the importance of family connections. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.